forward and get the help that they need. And when that happens, we keep everyone safer.
And many law enforcement agencies have articulated that their primary responsibility is to keep communities safe by focusing on violent crime and public safety threats. However, deputizing requires officers to take on federal immigration duties, diverting resources and personnel from their core mission. So when cities use their discretion, and Mr. Byers, a quick question for you, do you believe that this additional burden makes communities safer, or does it risk overextending local departments at the expense of addressing serious crimes?
I think states are best positioned to answer that question. It certainly can if you're imposing a mandate that is distracting from their public safety mission. And it's interesting to note that the majority's bill on this, H.R. 32, has an exception written in there for witnesses and victims of crimes. If you don't report them, it's okay under that bill, except no one's walking around with a victim or witness badge on them. So when a police shows up in response to a call, they don't know who's a witness or a victim. So the idea that, you can just carve that off and put that to the side doesn't work.
I appreciate that. I'm just short of time. And Mayor Johnson, I want to have two quick questions for you, and you can give them the weight that you decide to give them. First, who has more world championship, the Cardinals or the Cubs? Mayor Adams, I don't want you in on that. Can you tell us about the ways in which Chicago cooperates with federal law enforcement?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Violent crime in the city of Chicago is down. It continues to go down in my leadership because of our investments. Having trust between the community and police, local police, is attributed to that. And our local police department allies and cooperates with federal agents around human trafficking, drug trafficking, getting guns off the street, getting gangs off the streets of the city of Chicago, and it has worked. And the first black first lady in the history of Chicago is a Cardinals fan. Shout out to Hazelwood East.
Hey, that's my school. Thank you. I yield back to the committee.
And it's the Yankees. Chair,
Questions for you, Mr.
Chair, I recognize Ms. Luna from Florida.
Mayor Wu, does the Boston Trust act for strict communication with federal immigration authorities regarding individuals' immigration status?
We do not collect immigration status in law enforcement.
I'd just like to point out, and Mr. Chairman, if I could enter the Boston Trust Act into the record. Mr. Chair. Thank you. On section 4AA, a law enforcement official and employment of the city department, agency, or commission shall not, and then A, inquire of individuals who immigration status. Under Title 8 U.S. Code subsection 1373, regulates that local governments cannot prohibit or restrict communication with federal immigration authorities regarding individuals' immigration status. So your enforcement of this act is in direct violation of that statute. Can you please confirm?
That is not.
Thank you. That's the U.S. Code. I don't know about you, but the U.S. Code is not
We
lying.
do not ask for
Mayor
immigration
Johnson,
status, and that is what
one
makes
next
us
question. Mayor Johnston, you said in your testimony that the first step you took after illegal aliens arrived was to provide them with housing. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Folks that were on the streets freezing, if we gave access to shelter, yes, we did.
Thank you. Not to be rude here, but you have a good understanding of what the definition of harboring is, correct?
I do.
Okay. For those that might not, harboring means to knowingly or recklessly provide shelter or place to stay for an illegal alien. And according to Title 8 of U.S. Code subsection 1324, that is also a federal crime. Just to be clear, did you also say that you would be willing to go to jail to stop deportation?
I did say that I'd be willing to stand up for all of our residents, and the context is that was important to administration was threatening to deploy the U.S. military to the streets of our cities to pull kids out of schools and churches, so we were worried about that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record an article from CBS.
Without objection to order.
Thank you. In this, it says, Johnston said earlier this week that he's willing to use civil disobedience and, if necessary, go to jail to stop deportations. My final question, which would be for you, Mayor Johnson. Do you believe that Chicago's welcoming city ordinance encourages illegal aliens to enter the United States, specifically into Chicago, Indiana?
No.
Okay. So you don't believe that banning the transfer of individuals into ICE custody for the purpose of civil immigration enforcement encourages illegal immigration into Chicago? Or how about agencies, sorry 1 second, or agents not being able to stop, arrest, or detain individuals based solely on their immigration status or administrative warrants.
So we comply with all laws, local, state, and federal.
To me, after this line of questioning, it's very clear that these policies that you have all implicated are active and alive and well in your cities are in direct violation with U.S. Title 8, Code subsection 1324, and is a federal offense. But you all speak about a broken immigration system, and yet here you guys are aiding and abetting in that entire process. I want to be very clear about something. Open border policies, which is something that you guys are talking about, hurts people on both sides, meaning people that are coming here illegally and then American citizens as well. I do not think you guys are bad people, but I think that you are ideologically misled, which is why, unfortunately, based on your responses, I'm all going to be criminally referring you to the Department of Justice for investigation. And as soon as I leave here, these will be done.
Yes. Yes.
One thing,
I'm not doing an effort to bully you guys, but I do believe these are hurting the American people.
Yeah,
And
you
make
call me
that
and
known with the evidence that you can get presented to the Department of Justice. But if you guys continue doing what you're doing, you're not going to help anyone. You're going to burn on people.
Yeah, we
And that's exactly why
Mom, we don't want you to have to get the score.
Would you yield your last minute?
Yes, sir.
But, Mayor Adams, you were one of the first mayors in what the media refers to as a blue city, typically, that came out and raised concerns about the influx of illegals pouring into the city of New York. Could you answer the question, what that did to New York City from a budgetary standpoint? Let's not even talk about crime or let's just talk about from a budgetary, the burden on the citizens of New York City.
As I indicated, Mr. Chairman, we spent $6.9 billion, and the long-term impact of that is extremely significant. After COVID, we had a large number of children who was chronically absent. We could have taken $200 million of that and dealt with that. We have a real mental health crisis in our city. We could have spent hundreds of millions of dollars of that. And so the long-term impact of spending $6.9 billion is going to have serious ramifications on the future of New York City. So it's more than just what happened last year or this year. It is what is going to impact us long-term.
And I think that's one of the purposes of this hearing, to talk about the consequences from cities that have huge illegal alien populations. So the chair now recognizes Ms. Presley from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am grateful for our long-standing partnership with public service. I'm grateful that you be your congresswoman as well as your constituent. Again, grateful for our long-standing partnership in public service, grateful to be your congresswoman, and grateful to be your constituent. Clear my colleagues across the aisle didn't do their homework, because the fears and division they're trying to project onto Boston are really the stuff of Fox News fever dreams. Our city is vibrant, our city is diverse, our city is beautiful. Mayor Wu, immigration is central to the economic success of Boston, is it not?
Absolutely. All of our key industries, whether it's healthcare, life sciences, higher education, financial services, everything that we do depends on immigrant residents and the contributions that they make.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. Immigration defines Boston. For generations, our city has been shaped by people who have endured incredible hardships to arrive at our shores seeking a better life. They drove taxis, opened restaurants, studied at our schools, built homes, repaired our roads and bridges, cared for patients, cleaned offices, built businesses, provided essential early education and child care for our babies. There is no doubt immigration is essential to the success of Boston, but there is in fact a dark threat looming over this great city. That threat is the racist and xenophobic anti-immigrant policies coming from this Trump White House. Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this Boston Globe article titled, "They're Going to Deport Us. Trump's immigration policies prompt some children to skip school."
Without objection, so ordered.
Mayor, well, I've been speaking to principals and educators in Boston at various roundtables and town halls that I've convened. And the stories are heartbreaking. Elementary school children are crying in their teachers' arms, fearful that they're going to lose their parents to cruel and unjust deportation raids. Remember last week I met with an esteemed doctor from a local Boston hospital who reported that follow-up appointments in her clinic have seen a 200% spike in no-shows and cancellations. Her assessment, her patients are missing critical care like dialysis, prenatal care, and chemotherapy because of the fear of immigration raids in our hospitals and healthcare settings. Mayor, do you agree with this healthcare provider?
Absolutely. We hear it from our shared constituents. People are afraid, and that is having huge impact on their daily lives when they're just trying to do right, be a good example for their kids as they pursue the American dream.
Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this article titled Fearful Amid ICE Crackdown, Some Immigrants Are Skipping Healthcare.
Without objection to order.
So here we have a man who thinks he's king, screaming anti-immigrant slurs from the Oval Office, and what it has done to make Boston safe. Nothing, not a thing. But it has traumatized our kids, cost our elders their dialysis, delayed cancer patients chemotherapy, and struck fear into the heart of hardworking people who not only contribute immensely to our city and our community, but whose labor and contributions are also essential to the very functions of daily life in our great city. The members of this committee would be well served by learning from our esteemed mayor, but a teach-in is not the charge of this committee. Remind my colleagues, this committee's purpose is oversight. The only person who has something to answer for is Donald Trump. He is single-handedly decimating decades of economic progress, vilifying our immigrant neighbors, and disregarding the Constitution and basic decency daily. This man points to our most vulnerable, scapegoats them for every hardship, while he himself is actually the source of the hardship that the American people are experiencing. My colleagues don't really care about criminality. If you really cared about criminality, you would do something about Elon Musk's power grab, stealing our data. You would do something about efforts to defund the National Institutes of Health Cancer Research. If you really cared about criminality, you would do something about people that want to rob our babies of food. Make it make sense. My Republican colleagues across the aisle believe a 6-year-old from El Salvador who wants to go to school and a mom who fled violence in Haiti are the reason that the cost of eggs are too damn high. And your housing and gas will follow suit shortly because of these Donald Trump tariffs. The shameful Republican ripoff slashing away basic government services to line the pockets of Donald Trump's budget so they can buy toy yachts and rocket ships. It is a shame and a sham. America has a problem, and it is Donald Trump. If my colleagues really cared about criminality, they would do something about him. I'm grateful people of Boston and my mayor stand with their neighbors from every walk of life. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Gill from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing on such an important topic. Mayor Johnson, I want to start with you. One of your first actions as mayor was establishing a deputy mayor for immigrant, migrant, and refugee rights. I want to ask you a series of questions. If you could answer with a yes or no answer, that'd be great. First of all, do you support allowing illegal aliens to obtain driver's licenses? Just yes or no?
So the city of Chicago has been a welcoming city for over 40 years.
I'll take that as a yes. Next question.
And that's the policy that we will hold to.
Do you support tax dollars subsidizing or paying for the health care of illegal aliens?
I support investments in all residents and people of Chicago, and that's what I do.
That's a yes as well. Do you support free or reduced college for illegal aliens?
Again, I support the investments of all residents and people of Chicago.
That is a yes. Next question. Do you support allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections?
Again, I'm not over the jurisdiction of that type of law, but again, I'm committed to investing in all residents and people.
I'll take that as yes. I've got an article from the Chicago Sun-Times, and I'll quote here briefly. Johnson proposed, among other things, that all residents, regardless of citizenship status, be able to vote for Chicago Board of Education members. Next question. Your website states, and this is your campaign website, quote, "I will not stop fighting until abortion access is completely secure for people all over the country," end quote. Yes or no, do you support taxpayer-funded abortions for illegal aliens?
support the reproductive rights of all people, all women.
That is a yes as well. Your mayoral transition website mentions support for creating a Chicago Board of Education non-citizen advisory board. Again, yes or no, do you support appointing non-citizens to government advisory boards?
I was invited here today to discuss welcome.
Yes or no?
I was invited here to discuss welcome.
This is a yes or no.
If you're interested in asking
You're not
questions
gonna-
about the welcome city,
That is-
I'm happy to answer those questions.
No, we're gonna move on. As you know, President Trump, unlike the previous administration, has taken serious action to bring foreign criminal gangs to justice, to take our border back and to restore public safety in our communities. He designated 8 transnational criminal organizations and cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. These are groups like Trin Data Raqqa, MS-13, Tanoa, others, some of the most grotesque and ruthless and brutal organizations in the world. You, as mayor of a sanctuary city, have been virtually giving favors to illegal aliens. Apparently, you support an enormous amount of taxpayer resources going to them as well. But you yourself have also received a lot of gifts. And for those of you who don't know, Mayor Johnson has a secret gift room that is not given access to the public or for access to the Office of Inspector General. I'd like to ask you a couple questions about that. Do you know everyone who's given you a gift since you became mayor?
The city of Chicago has had a policy for
That's
40
a
years
yes or no question.
where there are individuals that like to give gifts to
I'm
the city
reclaiming
of
my time.
Chicago,
I'm gonna take that.
and we do not accept
When
these
did
gifts.
you
We
become mayor?
receive them on
No, I'm
behalf
gonna reclaim my time.
of the city of Chicago.
You're not gonna filibuster here. When did you become mayor?
I was elected mayor of the city of Chicago in April of 2023, and I was sworn in at 8/15
On June
of 2023.
On June 12th, 2023, you received Hugo Boss cufflinks and a personalized Mont Blanc pin. Do you know who gave you those?
So I did not receive those personally. The city of Chicago
You received those on behalf.
And that's right, on behalf of the city of Chicago, and
No, I
every
understand
mayor
the difference.
in the
You know
history
who-
of Chicago who has
You know who
provided
gave those
gifts
to the city of Chicago? Do you know who gave those to the city of Chicago?
So again, on behalf of the city of Chicago.
It's a yes or no question.
I do not accept, those are not my
You don't-
personal
you
gifts.
don't know.
Those are the gifts of the
On-
city of
on March
Chicago,
18th,
and that's why you are aware that they exist, because they're
Reclaim
within
my
the law.
time here, sir. On March 18th, 2024, you received a Gucci tote bag. Do you know who gave you that? Gave the city of Chicago that?
Again, I was here, and I was invited.
I'll also take that.
Respond
as
to
no. On March
questions
19th,
around
2024,
welcoming to
the
the-
city
happy to
of
answer
Chicago
any of those
received a
questions.
Vinci bag, a Kate Spade purse, and Carucci shoes. Do you know who gave the city of Chicago those?
Again, I was brought.
I'll take that as
Brought
a no.
here
I'm reclaiming my
to
time.
respond.
sir. I am
on behalf of the
reclaiming
city
my
of
time.
Chicago. of
This
what a welcoming
raises
city
serious
is.
ethical concerns. You're providing an enormous amount of aid to illegal aliens, aiding and abetting criminals who have come into our country illegally. And you yourself are receiving an enormous amount of gifts, and you won't even tell us who they're coming from. That
Perry,
raises
time is up.
serious ethical concerns.
Gentlemen,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record the City of Chicago Office of Inspector General advisory concerning gifts accepted on behalf of the city.
without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Talib for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Adams, since we're on the conversation around oversight, some misclaims here about corruption. I mean, do you agree, Mr. Mayor Adams?
Yes, I didn't.
Oh, okay, you weren't looking at me, that's fine. It's okay, I'll speak louder if you. Do you agree to a quid pro quo deal to enforce the Trump administration's cruel immigration policy in exchange for protection from the federal corruption charges against you? And you are under oath, just as a reminder.
Councilman, there was no agreement, there was no quid pro quo, and I've done
Yeah, help me out here though. So the Trump official, Tom Homan, we all know who he is. He said, quote, I'm quoting him, "If he doesn't come through, I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying where the hell is the agreement we came to," end of quote. You're accusing the Trump administration for lying? Or did they lie? What agreement did they're lying then?
Mr. Holman and I both agreed we would fight dangerous criminals, and we never had any conversation about my place.
Okay. So, Mayor Johnson and Johnson and, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the.
You developed Chicago, Jeff.
There you go. This is really important, you know, as a child of immigrants, and I think many of my colleagues on that side of the aisle have beautiful, diverse communities as well. And one of the things that I know happens when we try to have local law enforcement and local city officials, I mean, they really want Treasury, those that work for our city treasury, asking people for immigration status. That's what they would prefer. You know, is that racial profiling I mean, what do you do? Like, you wait for somebody to come, they have an accent, maybe they wear hijab, maybe they look a certain way. That's what they want you to do. That's what they're asking you to do, by the way. They want you all to basically do the job of what the federal government should be doing in regards to passing really comprehensive immigration reform. So families are not separated, because right now they're just, all they want to do is continue to talk about enforcement. Guess what? The last 20 years it didn't work, did it? It isn't working. So one by one, if you can talk about that, because I know my mother, who's been here for over 50 years, is carrying her passport, her U.S. passport for the first time in her life. And she ain't traveling nowhere out of the country. But she's carrying it because she knows her beautiful accent, it's beautiful. I love it. And just so fearful of being stopped and being asked her immigration status. She knows she'll be racially profiled. And she already feels unsafe in the community she lived in for over 50 years.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I would just agree. We don't think it's relevant to know someone's status when they come into a public library and check out a book, or if they come to the hospital for service, or if they come to register their child for school. That Constitution says you're entitled to an education, our job is survival. So we think that's unnecessary, and it just scares people away.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, allowing local law enforcement in the city of Chicago to focus on city priorities, as well as making sure that there's trust between our immigrant communities and all of our
I've worked on
communities.
domestic violence case as a former immigration attorney.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, this is deadly for women being abused.
It certainly engenders trust, and that's how we have driven crime down in the city of Chicago, because of that trust.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Boston is proud to be the safest major city in the country, and we do not ask about immigration status when providing city services. We also are clear to all our residents that we do not care about immigration status when we hold people accountable for doing harm in the community as well.
Yeah, because when I hear Sanctuary City, I hear anti-interracial profiling. I really do. I hear like, okay, we're not here in the business of trying to enforce broken immigration laws that are inhumane, completely immoral right now. That's what I hear. And as a former immigration attorney, when I hear the story in Denver, trust me, ICE is there waiting to pick them up. They sent 6 of them, and they couldn't handle 6 of them couldn't take this guy that they're supposed to pick up. Doesn't make any sense to me, because they're there. They're pretending they don't know that as a fact. But one of the things that bothers me about all of this is the executive order of rescinding the sensitive locations. Why this is important. They basically want to do immigration enforcement and racial profiling. And immigration enforcement that's race-based, because I'm at the Canadian border in Detroit. Do you know the majority of people coming on undocumented is Canadian? But guess what? It's still the brown folks that are overwhelming. ACLU did a study, is overwhelming the ones being targeted, detained, and deported. And so for me, the sensitive locations is hospitals, schools. You know, this is like funerals. This was all a policy in place to protect us from having our communities over-policed and militarized. Can you talk about the impact of that? And I have 22 more seconds because he went over 22 more seconds.
spoke over him.
He didn't. No, I didn't. Chairman, I never spoke over him.
No, not you. The mayor spoke over Brandon.
Oh, well, doesn't matter. He went over 22 seconds.
But go ahead
I
and
just
ask
want
your
them to answer
question.
the question about the sensitive locations, because this is something we all should be scared of. Pastors are calling me, because they're talking about churches possibly having ICE agents show up at churches.
I can just say, Congresswoman, our fastest growing church in Denver went from 700 folks in the commission to 5 after that announcement.
All right. Very good. Yep, Chair recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
All right, 43 seconds, that's a deal. All right. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Coming into this very important hearing, I suspected that Democrats would claim illegal immigrants pose no danger and would frame them as a sympathetic victim class completely glaze over the tremendous financial burden that mass unlawful migration places on the shoulders of the American taxpayers. And furthermore, they would completely ignore the grave dangers that violent criminal illegals pose to all Americans. It would be, Democrats would use spin and deflection and woke wonderment and delusion, and some would even blatantly lie. And as they so often do, the left did not disappoint. The first claim that we heard was there were ICE agents ripping adorable children off adorable school buses. It was a myth that never happened. What was the source of this Democratic claim? One letter written by one superintendent in a country of 13,000 school districts. And that letter said that this may happen. Well, I may start a business with flying monkeys delivering new fruit salads. I may. But it never happened. And the case in point was Alice ISD. And Mr. Chairman, there was another letter that Alice ISD sent, and I'm going to quote it. It said, "We have not had any Customs and Border Patrol enter or board buses, nor do we have any knowledge of it happening here or in any other school district." It was a spin, it was deflection, and it was a lie. Now, the most important thing that any elected official should focus on is to keep our citizens safe. There's no greater cause.
All right, y'all,
Mayor
get ready to
Johnson,
go.
Chicago, a safe city?
We are
Oh.
a safer city since
Oh, let
I've
me
been in
see.
office. Crime
Safer
is
city,
down.
okay. Sir.
Crime is down
Sir,
over
you know
20%,
that, sir, no, you're not
just
gonna
this year
overtalk.
alone.
Mr. Chairman, I reclaim my time, you're not gonna overtalk me. Brandon's, he was very nice, and he's a freshman. Not gonna do that. In 2022, I find it interesting that you say Chicago's safe. You have a higher murder rate than Haiti. And the Biden administration put up a travel advisory saying to Americans, don't go to Haiti. I hope that the Trump administration puts up a travel advisory saying, don't go to Chicago. In fact, the Haiti had a murder rate of 18.02%. Chicago has a murder rate of 18.26%. I can see why, sir, you have a 14% approval rating. Mayor Wu, you're a Democrat, yes?
Yes,
Okay. You support the Biden-Harris administration politically?
I did.
All right, y'all, I'm finna get ready to go. All right, I love y'all, I'm getting ready to go.
On immigration and continues to do so.
Let me ask that again. Do you think the Biden administration took border security seriously?
I think Washington failed.
Yes or no? That's not a trick question.